Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock and this is City of Heroes. We are with our level 20 brute, Liberty Lass. We're winding down season 1, right? As I said a few episodes ago, I'm going to kind of, when we get to level 22, I'm going to sort of call that season 2 and we'll start using our SOs, our single origin enhancers, and that kind of thing. But we're still in quote unquote season 1. I think this guy, does he sell? Yeah, he takes enhancements and sells them. But we're not buying level 20s. We want to buy level 25 single origins, which you can't buy here. Oh, look at this. We got some orange recipes and stuff. I don't think any of these are probably valuable. But I may try selling them on the auction house and see if they're worth anything. And maybe we'll make a little bit of cash from that. So let's try it. I think we can use AH. Yep. So let's just see if we go to recipes here. Let's just see what these guys are going for. Oh wait, hang on. There. Looking at the wrong interface. So nobody's selling that one, so we're not going to bother with that. That's only selling for 5K, so we're not going to bother putting that up. So I guess these aren't really worth anything, so we'll just go ahead and sell. Like that. And let's head on to the mission, which is to help Penelope with her father. So the next job is to defeat some Lost. So we gotta find them, usually wandering around here. And we're not gonna worry about making them level appropriate. We're just gonna come in and let's help the cop here. This is totally illegal, by the way. These guys are in the middle of being arrested and you just come in and pound them. I do remember they never had that at the beginning of the game and during launch, but I remember them talking about how, you know, in one of the common things to see in Steel Canyon used to be, and the council kind of does this now, but I'm not sure it's as common, and we've hit level 21. The council used to, not the council, the fifth column used to have a guy, like a lieutenant, literally standing on a soapbox, preaching his fascist nonsense, right? And is this guy attacking a cop? No, that's not going to happen. You're not taking out a cop, buddy. Yeah, he's evil and he's spouting fascist nonsense, but this is Paragon City is in Rhode Island. It's in the United States. Freedom of speech. If you're just standing there saying deplorable stuff, that's not illegal. And I remember them saying, you know, supposed superheroes, Liberty Lass, the Queen of Freedom here, right? She's all about freedom, and what's she doing? Going down the street, beating up guys who were just making speeches. Not in this zone, right, but in Steel Canyon, and it was totally legal to do. In Paragon City, there was no freedom of speech kind of thing. I remember there being a very long discussion about that, and actually what the players who were complaining about this said is, look, just get rid of that animation. Don't have them standing there giving a speech. Okay, this is a level 20 mission, so that means that Penelope's missions and story arc is level capped. Now, the next story arc goes with Doc Delilah. That is a level 20 plus, so we're going to go straight into that one and take care of that. And then the last one, I think, after Doc Delilah is, I want to say it's like 24 or 5. But I think I tried it below that at one point, and you could still do it. So we'll have to see what happens. We definitely want to get this one done and finish this story arc, because we don't want to be fighting a bunch of -1s and -2s. Right, because that'll be way too easy. And one thing I want to point out with the Lost, a bunch of the old types of mobs with the names vanish at level 20, and you just get mutates. And that's just sort of the level 20 plus version, like sort of the higher level Lost, and I think they just have more hit points than the other guys per their level. But the like Scrounger gunmen and stuff like that, you just don't see anymore after level 20 generally. And you see a lot more anathemas. These guys are so funny, like wearing a yield sign, TVs on their heads, stuff like as a helmet and stuff like that. Just so goofy. Oh, this guy's level 21. That's good. So maybe we will get some... Well, these guys are just +1 to the mission, I guess, because we do know that the mission is a level 20 mission. Right? You can see it in here. Right there. So now we're trying to find Muxley, who's, I think, one of the Lost. Ouch. So one of the things we need to get, either at level 22 or level 24, probably level 22, is yet another defensive power. Rise to the challenge. This one gives... Come on. Self-regeneration. So as someone said in the comments, it's sort of like the willpower equivalent of invincibility for the invulnerability set. I was going to take that, but when I saw quick recovery, I was like, yeah, that's mine. Because I hate having endurance problems. And between quick recovery and stamina, even unslotted, we shouldn't have a lot of endurance issues. And by the way, always come around these corners because you never know. Sometimes there are enemies waiting in the corners, and then of course there are usually enemies waiting up in this area. My guess is Muxley is down past here, because I think I just saw some word balloons. So one little clue when you're playing City of Heroes and you see a word balloon, it's often a boss or somebody threatening a hostage. So if you can get the camera in the right position for the word balloon to show you like where the word balloon is relative to your position, it sort of tells you where the target is. Although on this chunk of this map, the target's usually in this room. There's Muxley. Oh, so we're not saving him, we're beating him up. Okay. He's a boss, but I'm not going to worry about inspirations really with this guy just because he's -1 or -2. So that completes the mission. I'm surprised. Usually you have to take out the minion with him. With most cases with bosses, but so we got him. Completed the mission, got an enhancement, but it's a low-level enhancement. And now we're going to call Penelope. And then we're introduced to Dr. Lila. And then we're going to go get her father. So we got a temporary power. This is actually a pretty cool power. You can summon some clockworks. They work really well to like put them somewhere up ahead, and just get enemies to suddenly aggro to them, and it'll give you a second to move in and do whatever it is you need to do. But for a willpower brute, we may never need that. I want to point out, guys, that we've been following pretty much all the rules of Iron Man without me purposely doing it, and we have not died at level 21. Right, so we beat Iron Phoenix. I have not once left a mission to get inspirations. I think I was allowed to buy enhancements, right? I didn't have to only use the ones that dropped. I didn't trade down any influence. I did sell um, the orange salvage for on the auction house for a lot of influence, but we haven't actually spent that influence yet. So I don't actually think I've violated the Iron Man rules at all, and I've managed to survive even better than I did with my martial arts super reflexes scrapper, which is, you know, literally my always feels like my most comfortable power set combo, just because that's my origin. That's how I started playing City of Heroes. So one thing you should watch, if you want to, you can watch up here. When they do a hold on me, it will sort of flash up here, and that may tell you what it is that they're doing. If it's a little, it looks like a little circle with a plus over it, kind of hard to describe. That's an immobilize. If it looks like a white cylinder, that's a hold, a vertical white cylinder. I'll try to show it if it pops up again. If it looks like a frightened face, that's a fear. There, right there, that's the immobilize, right? It looks like a little plus pointed down, essentially. I don't know how else to describe it, but that's the immobilize symbol. Again, one of the things I really like about City of Heroes is that regardless of the special effect you're talking about, they use the same symbols for the same types of powers like immobilizes and hits and dots and AoEs, right? This is a round AoE, right? The AoE symbol is that little, the little kind of asterisk thing, whatever you want to call it. But then the sort of radius of it, or whatever you want to call it, is shown by the white on the outside. So if it was a cone, it would just, like say it was a 180-degree cone, it would just cover this. If it was a smaller cone, it would just cover that, right? So the idea is that you can just tell by looking at it what the power does, which I really like. And I forgot to level up, didn't I? Well, we'll do that after this mission. This will also complete the story arc. Yeah, the odd levels don't matter that much at this point because it's just slots, and we're not putting anything in the slots since we're going to change everything out for single origin enhancers in the very next level. Alright, so we have a level 20 boss here. Rough cut of Perez. So I think this is one where there are different bosses named for the different zones. So this guy is from Perez Park, right? Which, by the way, Perez Park is named after George Perez, the may he rest in peace, one of the greatest comic book artists of all time, and one of my all-time favorites, along with Walt Simonson. They also have Gaiman named, Neil Gaiman. The Gaiman Woods is in Perez Park. And several other famous, I think there's a Bendis something for Brian Michael Bendis somewhere. They named a bunch of different regions and zones and buildings and stuff after famous comic book creators, just as a tribute to them, since this is a superhero game. I don't know if there's anything named for Walt Simonson, though. So there, that's the immobilize. So this is the guy from Atlas Park, right? And basically it's a bunch of lost bosses who have claimed those zones as their own. Faultline, right? Bastard of Fault. Oh, I did make a slight error when I was talking about a quick recovery, and oh, this is our dad. when I was talking about quick recovery and stamina. So there is a difference in how I don't remember what they're called, like type B or whatever enhancements work. Type A enhancements are things that you put on attack powers generally, and they have to do with damage recharge enhancements, a 2-hit, and endurance, and they have a 33% effect. But on defensive powers, and also offensive powers, when you're looking at things, I think like 2-hit buffs and stuff, but certainly on defensive powers, resistance, defense, anything like that, and also on, I think, on endurance recovery, right? Not reduced endurance, but endurance recovery. They don't do 33%. They do 20% for SOs, and they still only can do 3 max. So the most you can do is plus 60%. So like if you have, like, our defense here is 5%. If we triple slot it, we can get it to 8%, right? Plus 60%. That's just the way it works. So you can't. Those enhancements don't do as much. And that, by the way, is why I don't generally bother to slot like health as a DO, because it'll only be like 10%. So I'll show you when we get to SOs, and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. So let's go to Penelope. Since she's right here, I won't call her up. I'll just go right to her and kind of like see what she thinks about the fact that we gave her father back to her, so we helped her. And there you go. Thank you. You are welcome, Penelope. And now we're going to go to Mirror Spirit and level up. And let's also go to the hospital and sell these bad boys. We don't need them. And again, not a lot of XP for that story arc, which is interesting. So off to Mirror Spirit. And there is the base portal, if you need that, right off to the side there, right there. One nice thing about Faultline is that, so this part has been renovated. So what's happening, it used to be that the whole zone was destroyed, right? And so when they put this Faultline story arc in, what they said was the city is gonna start renovating the zone, the hazard zones. You can see the very beginnings of it in Boomtown, although they didn't actually get to do anything. And so they renovated this zone here, and you can see that, like, this part, people are starting to live in it. There are cars here and so on, and you know, it kind of can only go up to this point and up to that point, and then it stops right after because now you're in the place that's being rebuilt, and then all that's wrecked. And I think that the plan was to eventually rebuild Overbrook little by little, changing the story arcs and so on, and eventually the story of the zone was going to be that it was repaired and that sort of thing. But they, you know, the game ended and they couldn't continue that, right? And they were supposed to do it for the other hazard zones, and they never got around to it. So we got a couple more slots. Let's finish build up and put one on Whirly Hands. I really do want to get two on quick recovery, but we're okay. We've got stamina triple slotted for now, so won't worry about that. I also want to point out, so this is a Ouroboros. This takes you to an alternate dimension. I haven't used it yet because this chain of story arcs we are currently on will get us the ability to go to Ouroboros. So let's get it ourselves rather than, because I think once you go in there, you get the ability to do it, but I'd rather actually earn it myself. Alright, so our next contact. So there's a new contact here. All the other ones are going to have expired. I'm going to have to go see them and have them give me new contacts. But first, we have Dr. Lila right here in this zone. And we're going to explore some of the ruins here with her as she tries to find out what happened to one of the superheroes, I believe. Alright, so we've saved her father, and now what she wants us to do is start investigating, right? The story of the Faultline incident, where he was a villain who broke the city, has holes in it, and so she wants to find a better recording, but she needs our help. So she wants us to recover the body of Akashi Knight. Somebody shot at me. How dare they? So we're going to head into the caves, see if we can find his body. And these guys are the Sky Raiders. So one of the things I forgot to check here, but you should check when you enter a Sky Raider spawn before you get within sight of them, is make sure you target them all and see if any of them are Raider engineers. If they are, kill on sight or capture on sight. Go after the Raider engineer first. If you don't, he will put down, there's the Raider engineer. I'll not go after him first, and I'll show you what happens. He's going to put down a force field generator right here that is going to make it impossible to hit these guys, or much harder to hit. Watch the 2 hit go down. Right? 66% instead of the 90% or whatever I would normally have. And the force field generator will just float there. It will follow him around. It's also hard to hit because its force field protects itself. And you can see, without the force field generator on, I'm at a 95% chance to hit. So it's at minus 30%, right? It gives him like a 30% defense. So the way to handle these guys is don't blunder into them. Sometimes you'll find a spawn with a couple of Raider engineers. You got to hit them, and hit them fast. They will kneel down. They can be interrupted, but it's very quick, right? Oh, I was too late. They can be interrupted, but it's very quick. You see that? And then you're stuck. And the other thing that happens is the force field generator, as it gets summoned, immediately begins protecting them, even though you cannot target it or hit it for about a second, which is really frustrating and kind of cheaty. Right? It's almost like they're cheating a little bit. So you want to just don't blunder into the spawn like I just did. The captain saw me and that aggroed both of them. You don't want to blunder into the spawn. You want to look for the Raider engineer and take the Raider engineer out while he's taking a knee. Any successful hit that does any damage at all on him will knock him out of the animation and prevent him from summoning the force field generator. So if you're a stalker, you have a huge advantage because you can just go right up to them. So there aren't any here, so that's good. You can go right up to them and assassinate them. Which is awesome. I used to love doing that to them. The Raiders, Sky Raiders. Sky Raiders are a pretty cool group. I like their outfits, and their helmets are pretty awesome. And they have some interesting guys, like the guys who have little like rocket wings that are pretty cool. So I don't mind fighting Sky Raiders. They're kind of fun. You just gotta watch out for the Raider engineers. Let's see, how long have we been playing here? 24 minutes, so we have time for another mission. Let's head to Dr. Lila. Hey, Doc. So, Skyriders weren't too much trouble. Poor Akashi Knight, his body is so well preserved. It's like he was mummified. I researched a good deal. He really didn't deserve to end up like this, but at least he'll help us learn the truth. Confidentially, I think he would have wanted that. And now the next step is to get the keys he mentioned from his old place of work. So we're gonna go to his work. Whoops. We're gonna go to his workplace and get his keys. Off we go. So one of the innovations that they had with this zone and also the Hollows and Croatoa and a couple of others, and they've got their donation goal for the month. It took about 3 hours. One of the things that they did that actually is pretty cool is because they made the story arcs the story of the zone. Each contact leads to another contact in the zone, and you stay in the zone. You don't have to transfer from zone to zone to zone. Whereas the older story arcs, the older story arcs, you where they were was almost always random. You got a mission in Paris Park, you got a mission in Steel Canyon, you got a mission in Talus Island, and the only thing they did was they made sure that they didn't give you missions in zones that were above your level range. But you could easily, as a level 45, get a mission in Atlas Park, right? And there was a lot of going from zone to zone, whereas in these newer missions that they created within the hazard zones and stuff, the missions all take place in the same part of the city on the same map, and so you don't have to go from zone to zone, which a lot of players like. It's more efficient. What I like about it isn't that you don't have to transfer from zone to zone. That's fine. What I like about it is it tells you the story of the zone, of the region. The story of Atlas Park is found in the little plaques around the city. They do have it, but it's found in the plaques, right? You got to find the plaques. You got to click on them. There's like a particular order that you'd have to click on them if you wanted to really get the story clearly of Atlas and why it's Atlas Park. And some of them have much simpler stories than the Faultline one, of course. But what I really like about the Hollows and Faultline, etc., is that you get the story of the zone through the story arcs, which is kind of cool. I actually really like that. And I think a lot of players did, and I suspect if the game had stayed live longer, we're getting ambushed. If the game had stayed live longer and the developers had continued to work on it, I suspect that more zones would have had that treatment. I think they would have revamped a lot of the zones. They were probably going to do that with Boomtown next. They did it with Dark Astoria. They were probably going to eventually do it with Craze Folly and kind of at least leave the zones half repaired and have there be like a hospital and some contacts and a trainer and stuff in each zone so that you could stay in the zone and have adventures in the zone, and there's a reason to be in the zone. Because one of the problems with Faultline before this revamp is nobody went in there. There was a task force at the dam, and I think it's still there. But if you weren't doing the task force, there was no reason to go into Faultline, and nobody did. And I remember I went in there like once ever before they revamped it, and I'm not sure I went in there. I think it was revamped while I was still playing in live. I think at one point I did play it late enough that it had been revamped. I feel like that might have been true. I can't remember now. But most of the times it's been like on Homecoming or Rebirth that I've been in there. And it's certainly early on in live, literally nobody like ever went into Faultline. And so they saw that and they said it's silly to have this completely never used zone. Let's revamp it so that people have a reason to go in it, a reason to stay. And the thing that they had to do really was make sure that you don't have to leave the zone for everything. So that's why they put the contacts and the hospital and the the shops and the trainers and stuff in there so that people would want to stay in the zone and use it. I think that was actually really good. So notice machine guns, they do reduce your defense minus 8%. That does actually... I always thought that minus 8 didn't matter, right? Like, that doesn't give them plus 8, but it actually does. It's not just that it would be minus 8 if I had like 10 defense and dropped me to 2. It literally drops me to negative 8, and they literally have plus 8 to hit. I did check that on Rebirth, and I'm sure it's true here with the hit rolls, where you can, you know, see what's going on, right? Where are we going? This way. Oh, you know what I haven't done? I should change the effect of Liberty Lass's flight and make it stars or something. I think you can do that. You know, I don't know how much of the customization is common between Homecoming and Rebirth. I know Rebirth did a lot of work on costume customization and stuff. Didn't this guy help us before? Now we gotta fight him. You jerk. He's an elite boss? Alright, let's throw in the clockworks and let them aggro. See, I got too close. Guess we better try to do a little bit more damage here. So one thing, my logic for the healing is I don't wait till I get way down in order to put the heal up. I do it when I get to about 60%. There we go. He was worth more XP than a mission. These missions, by the way, are our level. 21st. Because Dr. Lila is a level 20 to 24 contact. Or maybe a 21 to 25, I don't know. One of the two. Take the Arachnos evidence to Agent G. He's going to be the next contact that we have. I can't remember which zone. One of the zones, there's a badge on the crane. I think it's in Independence Port, though. So you come in here. There's actually... Well, I don't want to spoil it. So I was going to say something, but I won't spoil it. You'll see. I do want to say, guys, thrilled that people are watching and enjoying, and I post the content because people seem to like it, and I enjoy making it and chatting with you as we go. But if you really want to play City of Heroes, my strong recommendation to you is to do the missions yourself before you watch me do them, or it's spoilers. I mean, maybe some people don't care. I was actually watching one thing I've been trying to do is get back into writing, and I was watching a few Brandon Sanderson videos on writing, and then he has some videos where he's like just chatting with other writers about their writing style and that sort of thing. And he said something that's really bizarre to me, that I guess psychological studies have shown that a lot of people actually like having stuff spoiled. They like to know what's going to happen when they walk into the movie or when they open the book. I do not. So maybe some of you don't care, and if that's true, that's fine. But if you don't like spoilers, they're obviously going to be in this, so I would urge you to play the missions first and then see what happens. Alright, well, this is the finale. How long is this episode? 34. Let's go ahead and finish it up, right, guys? We'll finish it up. This probably won't level us to 22. But let's go ahead and do the finale. Oh, and I can show you guys, I think I did this with Silver Phoenix, but there is an Explorer badge over here that's really hard to get. Let me see if I can get it, show it to you. I think it's over here. And I can never remember exactly how to get in there. I'm Probably should have come over here and found it first before trying to show you guys, but right here. So this is like a little pool hall, game room, dartboard. So the way to get to it is to come all the way to the end by this wall, to go under the ramp, behind the boxes, and then straight in. So if you're looking for that Explorer badge, it's one of the ones that everybody has trouble with, because you got to figure out which ramp to go under and stuff, and it looks like there's no space there, but there actually is. And now we're going to find the good recording that's going to show what really happened back in the past with Faultline and Jim Tembler. Now this one, we have to like protect Doc Delilah. And she's a pain to protect, and it's very hard to keep her alive. So I'm going to try a little trick. I've not done this in this mission, but we'll see. And the trick is, don't free Doc Delilah until you clear the mission, and then come back and get her. It might be a bit of a pain, though. Should we try it? Let's try it. Let me try it, and we'll see if we can. We'll see how it goes. She's of absolutely no use. Just making sure there's not a Ranger Engineer. She's of absolutely no use. She's a terrible tank. She's very weak. I guess I could show you guys how weak she is, but take my word for it. She's very weak. She almost always gets killed. And she's very hard to protect, and I don't have a taunt power yet. I'll probably take that at 24, maybe. We're going to take total focus at 26. I don't need anything else from the pools, so we'll probably take taunt at 24, and we'll take Rise to the Challenge at 22. So Raider Engineer. Oh, these guys. So let's queue up an attack and go right to him. I missed him, of course. That's the other problem, right? If you miss him, he's gonna summon. Come here. So we'll get taunt eventually, but until we do, there's really no easy way to protect Doc Delilah. I really hate runners. There were a lot of complaints about runners on the street when the game was live, because you were supposed to like rescue rescue X number of people on the street. I don't even know if they have these missions anymore. And it didn't count unless they're usually two people, like two purse snatchers trying to pull a purse away from somebody or mug somebody, and you'd hit one and the other one would run away, and you wouldn't get credit until the one who ran away came back and you defeated him. Wow, these guys are aggroing from a really long distance. Let's get this guy and make sure he doesn't summon. Nothing worse than two of them summoning at once. There's no point to shooting anybody else or attacking anybody else until you take the field generator out. It's just going to make everybody hard to hit. But yeah, the players would complain that, you know, you'd get one guy, you know, one mugger, and then the other one would run away, right? And you'd have to chase him down and get credit for it. And initially they could run really far. They eventually started what they called shortened the leash, so that they could only go a shorter distance from their spawn point. Right, like that guy who just ran away, like Lord only knows where he got to, right? If you don't have flight, which people didn't have, which people did not have, you know, in Atlas Park. If you don't have flight, you can't even catch him, right? Which is really annoying. But again, I'm just ignoring Dr. Lila here. This way we'll keep her safe. She can't get killed if she's not with me. There's a Raider Engineer. So you gotta hope you don't miss. If you hit them, you interrupt them. And then they can't summon the thing, right? Whoops. Yeah, so that's another one you got to watch with the Sky Raiders is when you only see one of them, like I just did where I just dove in. There's usually 2 or 3, so you got to watch because one of them might be a good old Raider Engineer. And they can be, if there's a couple of them and they summon 2 of those force field generators, man, they're a pain, right? So there's 2 of them here. So I gotta make sure I hit at least one. The other one's far enough away that he's not aggroing to me. Did I hit him fast enough? Barely. Right? Another fraction of a second, and he probably would have summoned it. Alright, so what we have to do here is defeat Captain Castillo, find the recording, and save Dr. Lila. So I don't know if this is going to work, guys. I've never tried this before. I always make a game out of trying to save Doc, and she's almost impossible to save. Impulse Storm couldn't save her, I don't think. She was a brute. And my Stalker that I was playing for the Let's Rant couldn't save her either. Right? What was her? Psyop? The Psy Stalker? I should remake one of those because that's a really cool primary. Too many power sets and not enough time. Who was it? Somebody was saying he has 4 characters that he alternates between. That's not many. I used to have more than that. I've been pretty single-mindedly playing Liberty Lass here, just because I've been having a blast. One of the things I think I pointed out to that person, maybe I just said it verbally, but one of the main issues that I have, oh, I bet I passed a Raider Engineer, didn't I? One of the main issues I have with doing too many characters at the same time is just them having the same, playing the same story arcs over and over again, especially at low level. There aren't that many arcs. So it gets very repetitive. How many times are you going to do Bonefire in a row? Right? Now you can mitigate that in the low levels, right? You can have, there are 3 ways to start. You can start as a superhero, you can start as a villain in City of Villains in the Rogue Isles, or you can start what they call Gold Side in, I missed a Raider Engineer, in the alternate Earth, where Statesman basically became a dictator. Was it Going Rogue? Where you can start as either a loyalist or a resistance person, and then what happens is the story only lasts to level 20, and then you come here to Paragon City. So, or I think you can either go to Paragon City or the Rogue Isles, I think. So you can have 3 different storylines up to level 20, and then after level 20 you'll have 2. My main problem with that is I'm not a particularly huge fan of the other 2 areas. I mean, the alternate Earth is cool, right? It's very nicely mapped, and it's obviously like they have much higher res resources and stuff. It's clearly a newer zone in that sense. But the storyline, I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't like the way they do the missions. And if you watch where I did the Going Rogue, which was my Stalker, Tiger Shrike, I actually ended up complaining a lot while I was playing that game, and somebody actually scolded me quite rightly in the comments and said, you know, it's not a lot of fun watching you play this game and just constantly belly aching about it. You know, if you don't like it, don't play it. And he was right. Now, of course, I knew that at level 20 we were going to shift to Paragon City and I would start liking it again, so I was just kind of... I didn't know I wouldn't like the Going Rogue content because I hadn't played that much of it. And I thought I would like it, and I found out I didn't really like the way they had the missions scaled and stuff. They definitely made it harder, which is good, but again, it was one of these things where they made it harder in a way that was annoying. Okay, so now we got 2 Raider engineers. So what I'm going to do is target that one with a blast, and then target this one with a punch. Hopefully. So the thing with Dr. Lila in this mission is she will go over and aggro the whole room, right? Whereas I'm not aggroing the whole room. I'm staying here. I'm only aggroing these guys. Captain Castillo will come later. That was a bit rough because there were 2 spawns, right? So there were twice as many guys, but we did it, and it's fine. And they didn't pull out any force fields, right? If you go back, I think it's the Stalker one, Dr. Lila aggroed every single spawn in the room, and we got like 4 force field generators put on us at the same time, and all of them stack, right? So it was like minus 60 to hit or something like that. And then they just brutalized her, and I couldn't hit them fast enough to make them, to like take them out before they killed her. Okay, so there's no engineers left. Okay, that's good. So we're going to go ahead and try to pull these guys. And here's a trick. The enemies will come to the point where they can see you. So one of the best ways to pull is called the corner pull. You attack them at range or whatever, taunt, and then you back around the corner so they can't see you, and it forces them to run up to you. And come all the way into melee range if you're a meleeer, right? Because they're going to come to try to get you. If you just back straight up, let's see if I can show you. If I just back straight up, he'll run up to me, stop when he's in range of the ranged attack, and range attack me, right? But if I aggro him this way, and I run around the corner, he has to come around the corner to touch me, to get me, right? He can't see me from the other side of the corner, so he will come into melee range, and that's the way you pull enemies into melee range. Alright, so fortunately, this guy does not have a Raider Engineer with him. The last time I think I did this, he did. He will put down his own shield, but that's just one shield, so you only have to face one force field, and the inspiration, the yellow inspiration should be enough to help me take him out. Now the fog also hurts you. There's this thing. See, we're at 69. So let's go ahead and buff it. Oops. Alright, so now it's just us against him. The regular Raider can't really do that much to me. And the AoE should take him out. Right, it made him dizzy. Took every inspiration I have. But we got him. I got the clue, and now all we got to do is go get Dr. Lila. Now, the disadvantage of doing it this way is you don't get the mission complete. You can't teleport out, so you got to go back through the map. But it's not a big map. So, like, this is the sort of thing which if you've never played this mission before, it's not the sort of thing you would think to do, right? Even if you are really good at City of Heroes, because you don't know how big the mission is, and you don't know if you're going to actually need Dr. Lila at some point for some element of the mission other than just punching things. You also may not know that Dr. Lila is a wimp, and her defenses are terrible. Um, she has the old version of temporary invulnerability, which I'm not sure if it survived beta. So if it ever, and I've mentioned this before in one of the videos, but if it ever occurred to you to wonder why, is a toggle in the invulnerability set called that works like this toggle, right, where you turn it on and it stays on. It's a toggle and it stays permanently on, and it gives you all of this defensive ability. Why is it called temporary invulnerability? It's on permanently as long as you turn the toggle on. Well, the reason is it used to be a click power. You would click it, and for a short period of time, like a minute, you would get invulnerability. Maybe not even. Hers doesn't last that long at all. You would get invulnerability. You would get really good invulnerability, and the tanks hated it because they had to keep clicking it in the middle of doing other stuff. They had to make it part of their click rotation, and they hated it. So they turned it into a toggle. But they kept the name temporary invulnerability. If you watch Dr. Lila, which you're not going to see, when she's running around here, you can see it in my other videos about this, she keeps turning it on. And at first I was like, why does she keep turning it on and turning it off and turning it on and turning it off? And then I realized, oh, she's got the old original version of temporary invulnerability. Why did they give that to her? I have no idea, because she was created years after temporary invulnerability. She just turned it on. She was created years after temporary invulnerability was changed into a toggle instead of a click power. But this way we keep Dr. Lila alive, and she didn't bother me and didn't over aggro stuff and make my life harder. So that's a little bit of a way to kind of cheat it. It's cheating, right? It's not in character. You wouldn't do that in character, but it's sort of like the Lady Grey thing, right? Where with a stalker, you just stalk past her, clear the mission, and then wake her up, and it just helps avoid the NPC stupidity. What are we doing here? Oh, we got to tell Tembler the truth. Okay, so let's take a look at the clue here. Again, spoilers. So what happens is, it's the same scene, but you have the sound, and you recognize Akashi Knight's there, and Dr. Lila points out that the other villain, who has a strange widget with him called Psy-Curse, a psychic gadgeteer. Psy-Curse is holding up the device and cackling. Faultline looks like he's in agony. Confused, Psy-Curse laughs. Your tiny minds can barely comprehend the power of my psychochronometron. It's a time-traveling device. My psychochronometron allows me to turn sonic entry into temporal energy. I can use my mind to alter history, as I have just done. And now he who was once Faultline, my greatest foe, is now Faultline, my staunchest ally. So Faultline used to be a hero, and Psy-Curse changed the past to turn Faultline into a villain. And that's what caused this destruction, right? Faultline kind of went insane or whatever, but it really wasn't his fault. Faultline used to be a hero and an ally of the superheroes, and that's what he actually did in the original timeline, and then Psy-Curse changed the timeline and made him a villain. And this, or the next storyline, is where we get the Psychochronometron. I don't know if we got it yet. No. So we will get, we've had access to it, and once you've had access to it, you can get to Ouroboros. Finishes the story arc. Oh, guys, we are very close. And now Agent G is our next contact. I'm going to go check him. I'll pause it here and see if he'll give us a story. If he will, we will do his. And I'll let you know which way it turns out. So yes, it is the case that Agent G will give us missions. So we're going to go ahead and finish up this storyline in the next episode. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll finish up the storyline. It'll get us to level 22. I'm not going to slot any new enhancers in while we finish the storyline up. It's going to make it a little harder, but that's fine. And then to start, that'll be the season finale. And then to start season 2, we'll get a whole bunch of new single origin enhancements, and we can easily afford them. And by the way, guys, we now have over 1 million influence. I'm going to say this. Don't completely quote me, but I think I figured this out at one point back when I was playing. I don't remember if it was Silver Phoenix or what, but the amount of influence it costs to purchase the first set of single origin enhancers at level 22 for level 25 enhancers is roughly 850-ish thousand influence. And I think the cost goes up by about 50% for each new level 5 update. So I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure level 27 it costs about 1.25 million, and level 32 it costs about 2 million, and level 37 to get the level 40 enhancements costs about 3 million, and level 42 costs about 4.5 million. I think it's about like that, but don't quote me on it. We'll see as we go. Until next time, guys, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.